Hello and welcome to the Guardian Football Weekly. Some job to squeeze all this into an hour. Man City win the kind of title decider in a great game at the Etihad. Well done to all of us if we avoid saying fine margins. Eze off the post could have won it for Arsenal. Gabriel too. And then Havertz inches over for a point in injury time. All would make this conversation very different. But as it is, City have the momentum. Haaland with the key goal, holding off Gabriel. That was a great battle. And Arsenal attacked like we all wanted them to. Maybe they should have just stayed being boring. From there to the bottom, an absolute gut punch for Spurs in injury time. The sad eyes of Xavi Simons. Leeds had already hammered Wolves. They're surely safe. Forest must be close too after beating Burnley. All eyes on West Ham, who go to a Palace side still out after winning in Europe on Thursday. In the Champions League race, Villa beat Sunderland in one of the games of the season. Liverpool win the first Merseyside derby at the Hill Dickinson. And Manchester United have one shot on target, and it's enough to win at Chelsea. Eddie Howe still under pressure, but Leno with the save of the season. Some lovely emails, your questions, and that's today's Guardian Football Weekly. On the panel today, Barry Glendenning, welcome.
Hi, Max.
Hello, John Brewin.
Hello.
And good morning, Barney Ronay.
Hi, Max. Hi, everyone.
Let's start then at the Etihad. Man City 2, Arsenal 1. You were there, Barney. Probably the biggest game of the season. How was it for you?
Well, it was really surprising. It was a surprising occasion. You know, sport shocks us yet again because it was a really good, open game. I mean, it was actually great. It was kind of thrilling. Like you couldn't take your eyes off it. And it was just an occasion of paradoxes as well. I just as a kind of trigger warning, I will use the phrase "fine margins."
You're very welcome to,
but only in a kind of an interesting. There are fine margins in my use of the phrase "fine margins." There were so many sort of paradoxes around this game, because obviously everyone in Manchester. The train driver on the way up was talking about Arsenal bottling the league. I think he must have been a Man United fan.
What in his sort of like the next stop is Stockport? And
yes, as we arrived in Manchester, he said, and I'm not going to do an accent. On your left, you'll see the Etihad Stadium. Understand tickets still available on the door, £10. And there was a kind of oi oi oi, and then he said, and Arsenal fans, on your way home, please just remember to be nice to our staff after you've bottled the league again. And it was like,
stuff.
It was bantersphere. It was oi oi. It was, it was great. The whole train was involved in the banter, and that was good. But even as I was walking to the ground, there was an Uber driver driving along, and he's a taxi driver. He shouted "bottlers" out the window, like a group of, and. I mean, I caught the brunt of it, and fair enough. It's probably fair. But so that was the kind of vibe. But did Arsenal bottle it? And the answer is that they didn't bottle it because they played well and they attacked and all that kind of stuff. But they kind of did, because where was this energy against Bournemouth? Will be the take from that. And then you say, well, it was a game of really fine margins, as hitting the post just before City score and Havertz at the end. But it's also structural, isn't it? Like those are not elements of luck. Like the hard facts are that those margins are kind of financial. It's not chance. Haaland is a much better player than Victor Gyökeres, even though they basically cost the same, but Haaland has paid a great deal more. And this is a financial game. It's about wage bills. City's squad and management is the best thing they could possibly buy. And they're charged with breaking financial rules at the same time, which they might get away with it, but come on. So it's a financial game. There are fine margins, but football is entirely dominated by money. So this nation-state project is going to win the league again. But at the same time, it's a beautiful thing. And the best player was Nico O'Reilly, who's an academy player who's been coached into this really interesting role by Pep, and he was fantastic yesterday, and the team is good. But it doesn't really matter, because without $2 billion and a nation state, all that doesn't exist. It's a world. I'm spinning in a world of paradox. I mean, if you steal a Picasso, it's still a Picasso, and you've still stolen it, but it's still really beautiful. And City still deserve to win. So I'm just talking about and the paradox is that I thought this was probably going to be a really interesting point to make, but paradoxically, it's not. But that's but that is why the game is endless, and why we'll talk about this endlessly, and why football, you try to destroy it. People have been trying to destroy it for a really long time, but you sort of can't kill the spirit, because something about it remains endlessly fascinating and beautiful, and you will never get to the end of what the truth really is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Max, it was a good game.
Thank you, Barney. And that's all we have time for today. The executive producer is... No, I mean, you talk about that, and I suppose that beauty is totally encapsulated by, John, by the feet of Ray and Cherky there. Because in that moment, you're not thinking about all of the million paradoxes we've just heard of. You're just going, wow, somebody with that balance and grace who can move like this, that is astonishing.
Absolutely, yeah. Cherky, I suppose, provides a fig leaf over a lot of things because of the beauty of what he provides. But if we're going down Barney's commercial route, he was picked up in a fire sale from Lyon, who were going bust, and they got him for a relatively cheap price for a 21-year-old player who is one of the most talented players in France, and Manchester City get the use of him. But brilliant player, brilliant goal, and Nico O'Reilly is just as good a player, a local Manchester lad. And Arsenal played their part by playing football in a fashion that perhaps wasn't that comfortable for them, wasn't how they've done it this season. Did they pay the price for that? Perhaps a little. The game was perhaps more chaotic than Mikel Arteta wanted. And if we're talking images of the season, after the Havertz miss, the fact that Arteta couldn't even stay on his feet, just sort of fell to the floor, and those grey chinos just, up in the camera, and and then of course, Declan Rice, who I think he's a guy who's aware the cameras are on him, so says, it's not done. It's not done, as he picks himself up the floor, and it isn't done. But and the funny thing about this game was it was billed as the title decider, but actually it isn't decided at all yet, is it? And that now we have the run-in, so the hype machine rolls on, and now we've got the shootout to the end of the season. So all the better for it, all the better for us to talk about. Arsenal and Manchester City are supplying a great title race. All the better for business, to follow Barney's run of thinking.
Yes. I mean, I suppose the point being that had Arsenal got something out of this game, it really does change the title race, Barry. But right now it's so close. And I was surprised, I think, like a lot of people, by how open and how good a game it was.
I think Arsenal deserve credit for what they did yesterday. We've criticised them at great length this season for being risk-averse, overly cautious, playing belt and braces football, and they didn't do that yesterday. They were brave, they were aggressive, they got men forward in droves. They, even when the score was 1-1 and a scoreline which suited them, they continued to play front foot football, and ultimately their finishing let them down. That ball, that shot, Eberechi cracked off the post. That goes in. Could have been an entirely different result. I think a draw would have been fair. I find myself this morning feeling an emotion I don't think I've ever felt before, which is a mild sympathy for Arsenal fans. And I hope it doesn't last. I'll probably go and have a shower after this podcast. But I thought they were terrific. And like Barney says, City just have better players. But I was surprised by their approach yesterday and impressed by it. And I thought they were a little bit unlucky.
I agree. I think Arsenal will be really glad this game is out of the way, because there's been lots of branding chat and kind of like talk about fire, and let's come up with a good slogan to suggest that we're feeling positive in a really difficult, tense time. But actually, there is life there. They played well, and they will look at the games they've got left and think, we can actually win all those if we play like that. So oddly, it was an encouraging defeat against their main rivals, who can now overhaul them at the top of the table. I think that you'll be feeling relief in a way if you're an Arsenal fan, because even though you didn't win, the team played well and had heart and played with some soul, and that's good. It didn't look like an institution that's crumbling, choking, dying, and all the rest of it. So I noticed on Match of the Day too that both Wazza and Danny Murphy had Arsenal as title favourites, which I think is a bit odd. Like, Arsenal have lost 4 of their last 6 games, 2 of those against Bournemouth and Southampton, and 2 against their biggest rivals, which is not, it's not title form, is it? But there will be an odd sense of relief about it, in that it's clarified things in a way, and you just have the games left. But I wanted to say also, I think maybe the goal that might ultimately win City the title is not Haaland's goal last night, but Haaland's goal at the Emirates in the autumn, which was a breakaway goal. It was an incredible breakaway goal, the length of the pitch, when City were not in their best state, and Arsenal actually had a relatively, I think, open team that day, and they got really caught. And since then, they've gone pretty cautious in a lot of games. There's been an obsession with not being caught on the transition, with being kind of gatherers rather than hunters. They're kind of going to make a massive store of nuts and seeds, and they're going to win the league that way rather than by going out and killing a coyote.
Squirrel. They're going to squirrel their way to the
they've been
the title.
squirreling points, squirreling goals, squirreling clean sheets, and that's the way we'll do it, because we can win that way, because City are not that good, and we'll win. And I think that goal had an effect on the way they've played. And I think that experience, and Mikel Arteta, don't forget, he's in his first job, even though they've come second 3 times. It's he is learning. He's quite young, and Pep Guardiola is his mentor. And I think that was a bruising goal. And if it had not happened, there may have been games where they played slightly differently, or moments where they played slightly differently. And I think that goal was probably as important as the goal. I don't know, as important as the goal yesterday, maybe, in terms of ultimate points to where they've gone this season. And if they'd played with the elan that they played with yesterday at times, even quite early on, in other games, I think they probably have more points now, but that's a learning thing. So oddly, an encouraging, crushing defeat. Another paradox there, Max. That's a paradox.
Yes. Right, I understand. I wish I remembered that goal, because I would have sort of been thinking about it as
Can you not remember?
it.
It was really good. He ran the length of the pitch. It was brilliant. He basically ran through the whole team. It was a fantastic goal in a 1-1 draw. And I think it bruised Arteta a bit, and bruised his thinking a bit, and affected what he did tactically from there.
Still don't, but I completely take your word for it. There's no reason not to believe you on this, Barney. On this goal, John, this Haaland one, I mean, it was him holding off Gabriel, it was a really good fun. 2 strong people just pushing each other around for 90 minutes.
Yes, and afterwards, Haaland said, he enjoyed playing against him, thinks he's a great player. There was respect. After boxing matches, when the players hug each other in that sort of manly embrace of respect, that's pretty much what he said. And then, of course, obviously, there's the headbutt incident, which, it looked to me like a red card. And, at that point, fans of other clubs claim, well, how come that can't be a red card when this thing happened to my club or whatever? But as Haaland said, if he'd gone to the floor, then it probably would have been a red card. But he saved him, and maybe there was an element of respect within him not doing that. Haaland said, I saw an interview with Peter Schmeichel where he said, I don't normally do that type of thing, the wind-up. And then Schmeichel looked at him and he said, actually, yeah, I do sometimes, but not this time. And it was almost as if, they love going up against each other, and that was the key battle. Unfortunately for Arsenal, at the key moment, the winning goal was when Haaland got away, and this is a Haaland that, since the turn of the year, hasn't been the player he was when he was scoring the goal that Barney talked about. He's been a little bit off it. There has been this suspicion that maybe he doesn't fit together with Semenyo as much as he'd like. But this is it, isn't it? The big moments. You mentioned Gyökeres. Gyökeres came on and did not touch the ball. And this is the gap in quality. And I think if Arsenal get to the end of the season, haven't won the title, they might wonder whether they could have saved some of the money and put the money towards a top striker, rather than go for Gyökeres, who was a cheaper option, I suppose a ready-made option, because he was 27, because I don't think Gyökeres has been as bad as some of the press of certain people have said that, he's been a total flop. I think he's done his job. But the player I was going to say was that they could have signed Alexander Isak, but maybe that wouldn't have worked out either. But but that's the sort of that's the level of player that maybe they should have signed. And if there's one thing that I felt Arsenal lacked in this game, and that's evidenced by the Havertz miss, it's the killer instinct, isn't it? That once Arteta decided that his team could have that freedom of expression, you've got to have an end product to it. And it wasn't quite there.
It had crossed my mind that show of respect and sportsmanship by Haaland towards Gabriel could come back to bite City, because if Haaland goes down, Gabriel gets sent off, I think it's definitely, he's going to have to serve a ban. He scores quite a lot of important goals for Arsenal, and he's now going to have, whatever it is, an extra 2 games he might not have had to score in potentially title-deciding goals for Arsenal. But
yeah, good point. Bob says
I may be overthinking. I may be going full Pep.
No, I think it's actually a good point. I hadn't thought of. Bob says, should head-on-head rutting just be codified and allowed in the game? As long as there isn't a but, just let the players do it. Perhaps award possession to the winner, like they'd won a scrum in rugby. I mean, I've always liked the heads attached, pushing each other's head as just a bit of the game, to see who bluffs first. And Gabriel, I don't know, I've never been in that position, so I've never known, are you both tempted to force your head forward, like what's the, I'm looking at this call, I can't see that many head rutters
Max,
in front of me.
if you want to go deep into the technique of head rutting, you're talking to the right people.
Finest. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
they had in the Sky Studio, didn't they? Had Vieira and Keane, didn't they? And there's a classic image of a game from 1999, 2000 of Keane and Vieira, just their faces pressed up against each other as, I suppose, a signifier of that being the ultimate man-on-man rivalry of when men were men and the Premier League was full of real men. And I think Sky dropped on really by not showing that footage and saying, lads, is this actually how you do it? Is the game gone here? Because we always talk about the forward in that headbutting, rutting situation. It's always about the forward movement, isn't it? It's you go back to the
yes.
What was the forward movement? What? Oh, I'm not seeing forward movement there. Oh, are we seeing forward movement? Yeah, it's one of those.
I mean, like me, most of you probably yearn for a time when men were men.
Yes.
and there was
headbutting each other out on the street, left, right, and centre.
But I thought that yesterday men were actually men, because the Haaland Gabriel thing was nice. I thought you're right. There was a respect. I liked the way Haaland didn't even occur to him to fall over, and it was a good battle. And the finish was incredible because he was doing something with his arm, which was really important, which was holding off Gabriel. At the same time, he was doing a really precise thing with his left foot, right arm, left foot. There's the whole thing about Phil Collins, obviously, is that he can drum and sing at the same time, which is, drummers tell me, is really, really hard. It's really, really hard to drum and sing, to drum in that way, where he does like the break in the Air Tonight, and he's singing at the same time, or he comes in on it. That's apparently really, really difficult. And there are live performances where there are drummers kind of marvelling at the fact that he can do that. And I would put being able to hold off Gabriel, feeling respect for Gabriel at that moment, and also slotting the ball into the corner with your left foot up there with that kind of level of coordination. Moment of the season, Max.
So who has the more natural talent, Erling Haaland or Phil Collins? Which is a TalkSport phone-in I have done in the past.
Phil's not a bad actor.
Okay, yeah. Buster. Not a bad movie, eh?
Don Henley of the Eagles was also a singing drummer, of course, and would sing Hotel California while knocking out the drum beats of that. Singing drummer, it isn't as hard as singing and playing the bass is supposedly one of the hardest disciplines.
Is that right?
Right.
Yeah, which is why Paul McCartney is, the king of music in many people's respects. Phil Lynott and people like that. It's you're sort of singing against yourself.
Ringo did not drum when he sang. He sang, did he? Paul McCartney would drum on, I believe. when that happened.
McCartney
I feel like
plays...
this is a different podcast.
Yeah. This is the word.
If
podcast.
If I can take you to the run-in, Barry. Man City have Burnley away midweek, their game in hand. Everton away, Brentford home, Bournemouth away, Palace home, Villa home. Arsenal have Newcastle at home, Fulham at home, West Ham away, Burnley at home, Palace away. So who wins the title for you, Baz?
Man, I don't know. The presumption is that City will go to Burnley on Wednesday and absolutely batter them and go chop on goal difference, and it's difficult to see any other outcome of that game. But after that, I don't know. There's so many factors to take into account. You know, will Palace have a European final to contend with? Will they have just won a European trophy and all be drunk? I haven't looked at the dates for that yet. How bad will Newcastle be when they go to Arsenal next weekend? Will Eddie Howe get a reaction? Fulham are up and down. You don't know what you're going to get from them. I don't know. So it's a coin toss.
I was going to say, do you remember this? I think it was the 2002-03 Scottish Premier League season, or when Celtic and Rangers went to a final day turkey shoot when it was about who scored the most goals in the game.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's that would be the ultimate Premier League content driver, wouldn't it? Just, you know, you've got to score 6. They've scored the 4th, and then it cuts to the other game, and they've got to score 5 or something.
Yeah,
that's what we want, isn't it? That's what we want.
That would be good if they were continually cutting to Arsenal scoring from corners. Like they score 7 goals from the identical corner. Or turkeys. I mean, isn't it just obvious, though? I mean, City are in really good form and Arsenal are not in good form. And so you have to say that City are favourites. And that they do have very, very experienced manager who knows that he's won 12 league titles. I've been at City's last 2 games, Chelsea and... No, maybe their last 3 games, or whatever it is. And I've thought they just have that energy about them now that they feel good. And Pep is playing it really well. He's leaning into being super relaxed Pep, like non-robot Pep. He's found someone more robotic than him, and it makes him feel good. He's wearing slightly looser trousers. He's joking in press conference. He seems really... And he knows what he's doing with that. He talks about I'm not really telling the players what to do. I'm just telling them to feel good and go for it. I don't believe that for a second. But it's almost like a deliberate kind of... it's like a Fergie-style, very subtle mind games with someone you know really, really... I mean, he knows Mikel Arteta so well. It's like the way you can annoy your spouse by saying something that nobody from the outside would even know was like, oh, this milk's semi-skimmed. And that, that's just like the most brutal jab into the, oh my God. I feel it's like that when he says things in press conferences. And it's like he's just come out with the most, they know what they're doing. And I think Pep feels very much in control of who's on top of the kind of mutual spouse guilt register today.
This aubergine is slightly undercooked. Bang. Yeah. It all starts.
We're going to go to your mum's again. Okay. Yeah. And that's just like, whoa.
Anyway, that's the title race. We'll go at the bottom of the table in just a second. Welcome to part 2 of the Guardian Football Weekly. So the bottom of the Premier League looks like this. Wolves 17, Burnley 20. And then Tottenham 31 points from 33 after that draw with Brighton. West Ham 32 from 32. They go to Palace tonight. Forest 36 from 33 and Leeds 39 from 33. Let's begin at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Dave says, what are the chances of City getting an 80-point deduction for the 115 charges before the end of the season? You're a nervous Spurs fan. Sweetie says, is anyone in world football able to look more sad than Xavi Simons? Maybe he's taken that title from Gabriel Jesus. I've got to say, John, that is the most deflated I've been by a goal, perhaps since Croatia-England. I mean, I felt bereft. I didn't really believe it had gone in. I watched it. I was like, that can't have gone in. I'd been rehearsing the kind of, look, Tottenham are at 16th. It's fine. The De Zerbi bounce is here. They've won a football match. This is extraordinary. Like, it all looks different. The players are hugging. And then just this, there's something about that football can do this. And we did it on the radio yesterday about there is just a goal that just sucks the wind out of you. And most people messaging the show said, well, West Ham fans saying that Gerrard goal in the FA Cup final, they just, it's just unbearable. But that was, for Tottenham, that was absolutely disastrous. Barry, meanwhile, John, burst out laughing. But I'm interested to know what your reaction was.
Okay, I'll refrain from laughing, though. I did.
No, you can. You can. You've got to be honest.
I watched it in the Chelsea press room, and as soon as the 7 minutes of added time went on, Sam Wallace from the Telegraph turned to me and said, "You know what's going to happen, don't you?" Yes, that it happened, and we all knew that this was going to happen, that this goal was going to come in. And we also knew that Xavi Simons' celebration of the winner that he scored.
It was too much.
On 70 minutes, which means that there's 20 minutes plus a lot more to go. It just, yes. It was is it a killer blow? I mean, the results were not great for Tottenham. It was a... and De Zerbi is almost as helpless. It's a bit better, but it's still not enough. And back to Xavi Simons, who it was cramping up, and then there's there's still the picture I sent it to you of his face, and the thing is, we get sometimes a bit too much. We get criticism for social media, but it's the fact that on social media, he puts up the picture of his goal celebration and we're still fighting. And it's like, oh, but do you remember the bit where I scored this and and the celebration with the fans? And it's like, I mean, clearly he himself didn't do that. There's someone else who's done that for him. It's like, maybe judge your moment a little better, mate. It's Tottenham. Wow. I mean, we've said this before. Tottenham, as much as Barney was at the Grand Slam Sunday, Tottenham are the story of the season. It's just amazing, and we're being treated to this horror story, and I just can't get enough of it. I just want to watch Tottenham the whole time. I just love it. Oh,
yeah. And Barney, I know it's not luck if you're there. But how's your luck? Matoma turned into Van Basten. Ruter's finish isn't easy. Meanwhile, Morgan Gibbs-White, who you basically signed, scores a hat-trick somewhere else. Crystal Palace are out on the piss on Thursday night, and they're playing West Ham. And you're like, oh, for God's, it's...
Max,
yes.
Luck's got nothing to do with it.
Okay, fine. You're right.
I mean, shall we go through the managerial appointments and sackings? I mean, the good news for people who like to consume Spurs content, and who can only nourish themselves on Spurs tears, bottles, stock preppers, stockpiling enormous bottles of plastic maxi packs of Spurs tears in their garages, is that many more games are now becoming Spurs games. So tonight, West Ham play Crystal Palace, and that's an ultimate Spurs game, isn't it? Because I think if West Ham win that, I might start to believe it really is a problem then, because Spurs will be 4 points off safety, and that's fine. But when you don't really look like getting any points, 4 points is quite a lot of points. And I feel that relegation might be a good thing in some ways. I mean, not a good thing, commercially terrible, but we've done commercially, that really work out, did it? It might be like a baptism, a cleansing. Cleanse yourself in the fire. Maybe that's the arc here. I do think De Zerbi's a really good manager, and he sort of looks good in the stadium. The stadium looks good on him. I can see that. I mean, he looks like a caterpillar, but he also looks good in the stadium. And he sort of
does he look like a caterpillar?
A bit, yeah. A nice caterpillar, like quite.
Okay, fine. Yeah, a big furry one, or the hungry caterpillar.
A cartoon caterpillar.
Yeah. Okay.
He actually looks a lot. Have you ever seen that the World Stare Out competition? He really, really looks like the Italian champion of stare out.
Okay.
In that.
Oh, I'll still check it out.
But he's a really good manager, and I believe in his kind of passion for the game and his innovative. If you just scorched earth, just burn it all down, give it to De Zerbi, go and play Lincoln, and come back. That might be what Spurs need in some ways, because it's not working at the moment. Being a commercial project's not really working, is it?
No, they were slightly better, Barry. I mean, that's something to cling to.
Yeah, it's not much. It's like that door Leo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet were clinging to after the Titanic went down. Spurs haven't quite gone down yet, but it was their best performance in a while. They pressed, they harried, they tried to force, or they did force Bart Verbruggen into mistakes. I still think they'll be okay. Obviously, the Wolves game is massive, but and if they don't beat Wolves comfortably, they deserve to be relegated. But I think they'll go to Wolves, beat them, and that will be the catalyst for maybe another couple of wins, which should be enough. But I'm like John and everyone else. I can't get enough of this absolute car crash. It's just hilarious.
It feels to me like somewhere, perhaps in Britain, or perhaps it's that they're stuck already on the Straits of Hormuz. There's a consignment of Spurs tears bottles that are being readied for when this.
Does it have Arsenal? Is this a North London? It's a boat that's going to North London, and it's got half Spurs tears and half Arsenal bottles. Or Spurs tears in Arsenal bottles.
Yeah, I mean, which do you prefer? It is the new still or sparkling, isn't it? Like, I don't know. But, I don't know. Maybe we need to. Maybe the real message here is we need to transition away from North London reliance on North London tears. Maybe we need to think about alternative tier sources of hydration.
Well, I mean, I suppose there will be if Arsenal win the league and Spurs stay up, then suddenly it's like a joint parade that they'll have around North London. Look, their midfielders.
It is interesting that this is what's powering the kind of Premier League. That's like the story of the season, isn't it? It's kind of more about the kind of agony and failure. These are two sort of incredible narrative arcs. That's sort of how the Premier League is entertaining us this season. That's what the story has become. This kind of bantersphere, inverse entertainment stuff where you enjoy everything around football seems so much bigger than football these days, the kind of endless game that happens between the games. And like, you don't really need to watch the games, do you? I mean, you just need to see the pictures afterwards and Xavi Simons' eyes.
Yeah.
Are they more important than his goal?
You should listen to the podcasts afterwards, I think. I think that feels like an important part of consuming this whole thing. But yes, just really upsetting. Anyway, look, Kevin Danso obviously should have put it in row Z. I thought Ashley Williams was quite interesting on that goal about Pedro Porro being in completely the wrong place, and that is how it led to Danso making the mistake. But then obviously non-white player makes a mistake, gets a lot of racist abuse. It's so depressing. In a statement, the club said they've reported the significant and abhorrent abuse to the police and the authorities. We will push for the strongest possible action against each and every person we identify. Kevin Danso said, the abuse doesn't define me, won't distract me from what's important. I know who I am, what I stand for, and why I play. The Premier League said discriminatory abuse has absolutely no place in football or wider society. And it is, as depressing as it is unsurprising. And Danso actually had a really, not that it is relevant, but had a really good game in for Romero until that moment. So that the other results didn't go for Tottenham, but they did go for Forest and Leeds. Forest beat Burnley 4-1. I don't know at half-time, Barry, if you thought, this might not work out for Forest.
Well, at half-time, I was watching a different game, so I didn't really have an opinion on whether it would work out for Forest, but it did work out for Forest, and it was very much the Morgan Gibbs-White show. He scored an excellent hat-trick. Igor Jesus wrapped it up for Forest in the end. Burnley were pretty pathetic, even though they did take the lead. That goal they scored was quite funny, actually, because a Hartman cross seemed to take an absolute eternity to trundle its way through this very narrow gap and into the path of Zian Fleming, and he scored. I would imagine Forest hearts were in mouths at that point, but they ran out very straightforward and easy winners in the end.
Mm-hmm. Gibbs-White was brilliant in this game, John, and like they'd obviously beaten Fiorentina on Thursday night to set up this Europa League semi-final with Aston Villa, which feels very early 80s as a European fixture to me. Yeah. It will be interesting to Vitor Pereira's done a really good job since being the 15th manager that Forest have had this season.
He has it, and he's repeated the job he did at Wolves last season. Obviously, we've talked quite a bit on this part about who are the new, Red Adair, modern reference there. Who are the new rescue, the ferryman? Vitor Pereira is going to be that guy, isn't he? Because he's not going to be at Forest for a long time. We know that. Just look at his CV. But next season there will be a club struggling towards the bottom of the table. Let's say it's West Ham. Who's the call going into? Vitor. Nice to see. I'll perhaps be shaking Vitor's hand again and wishing him luck. And he will be. Yeah. And that's what he does. And I suppose it actually is similar to what he did with Wolves last season. The best players get to shine, and Morgan Gibbs-White, it probably is Nottingham Forest's best player. Give or take a couple of the defenders. He's the player Tottenham really could do with this season, but that deal didn't happen, quite famously. And he's a hell of a player, and he's a real asset to that club. And yeah, Nottingham Forest v Aston Villa. I'm seeing Cloughy. I'm seeing Ron Saunders. I'm seeing some offhand remarks about each other. It's got it all, hasn't it? Unfortunately, we're in 2026.
Yeah. That header from Gibbs-White was absolutely brilliant as well for the hat-trick, wasn't it? Meanwhile, Leeds beat Wolves 3-0. And that, Barney, is an amazing week for Leeds. To win at Manchester United, then Wolves are obviously bottom, but to dispatch them so early in that game and relax and to get onto 39 points, it's probably enough.
Well, I think so, yeah. I think they're okay now. And I'm really pleased with Daniel Farke, who, sometimes feels a bit like he is Fortune's fool, kind of born to suffer in this league. But he's so pleased and he's so happy with what's happened there. And Leeds are a good club in the Premier League. I was talking to Dave Heitner, who was actually at the Man United Leeds game. And he said that the atmosphere of the whole game was really good. He'd almost forgotten, because Dave spent all his time following Spurs and Arsenal, he'd forgotten about the sort of joy of being in some of those stadiums. This was Old Trafford, but he said the Stretford end, even when they were losing, was really good. The away fans were really good. And he did a kind of northern propaganda rant about those kind of games and those kind of teams playing each other. And I love watching Leeds, and the atmosphere they generate feels big. It feels like it belongs in the league, and I think Farke's done a really good job of staying cool in the second half of the season. I certainly thought they were going to be the people who saved Spurs, but unfortunately not.
No, 5-5 for Noah Okafor as well. The pass from Aronson was absolutely beautiful for that goal. Wolves relegation could be confirmed tonight if West Ham beat Crystal Palace, or when West Ham beat Crystal Palace. So the run-ins then: Spurs go to Wolves, go to Villa, home to Leeds, away to Chelsea, home to Everton. West Ham are away to Palace tonight, then have Everton at home, Brentford away, Arsenal at home, Newcastle at home, Leeds at home. What do you reckon, John?
I don't necessarily want Tottenham to go down, but I want the Tottenham drama to... it would have been disappointing if they'd beaten Brighton and we'd have got this sort of, we're actually going to be safe now. That would be really disappointing. I want this to go.
You want last day. You want sort of last day, sort of Barry Horn, Everton type.
As it stands, yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
I want tickers. I just want total excitement. I want phones to be buzzing and, Tottenham losing, WhatsApp messages. I want that. I think that's what we need. But that's what I'm into the content. We're in a content world. We want a content driver of a final day, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I agree with that? Sorry, Spurs fans probably think that we want them to go down or something. Not at all. I just love the drama. I don't care if it goes to the final moment and they stay up.
I would like to say I want them to go down.
Okay. But I'll be okay if they don't. I just want to feel something, some kind of feeling to happen. And
so you've got this
right
last day where City and Arsenal are just having this goal out. Meanwhile, there's just sort of agony at the London Stadium, and good that West Ham and Tottenham are both at home. That's perfect, isn't it? Because their fans are both just absolutely desperate. These two miserable.
If
stadiums.
I peer into the future, I'm seeing a topless James Maddison in the crowd, being hugged by deliriously excited Spurs fans. And unlike Xavi Simons it's not. There aren't 20 minutes left. It's the last minute of added time, the last of 11 minutes of added time, and they just about stay up by the
no, because
skin
then
of
what
their
happens
teeth.
is it cuts to the London Stadium, and Thomas Souček scores a shit header. And
Tears of joy are just as nourishing as tears of agony.
I think so.
Also drink your tears of joy, North London clubs.
Fine. Okay, that'll do for part 2. Part 3, we'll do the Champions League race. Welcome to part 3 of the Guardian Football Weekly. We are live in New York on the 16th of July. Desperately trying not to say New York in a New York, to do our COD New York accents this time, Barry. We're playing the Bowery Ballroom. We will have lived with each other for 6 weeks, me and Barry. So, I mean, one of us, I might be dead because I can wind up Barry in a way that gives me such incredible joy that I think, depending on how the World Cup's gone, there may be Fleetwood Mac style tension on stage. Panel has yet to be confirmed, but I'm pretty sure, John, you're in New York with us, so it'd be disappointing for you if you didn't get the call since you're in the hotel.
You're just going to leave me at home. So, see you, lads. We're off to the Bowery Ballroom. What about you? What are you going to do tonight? Yeah.
What is the Bowery Ballroom like? Is it a ballroom?
Played host to the Beatles, among many stellar acts. Patti Smith, I think, plays a New Year's Eve residency there every year, and it holds about 500 people standing, so it's quite intimate.
Right,
and
terracing. We got terracing for this. This is
well, I was rather presuming they'd put chairs in, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think it's not really it's not a mosh pit. Barry's not going to crowd surf, is he? In the encore?
I might.
Okay, well, let's see how it goes.
Nothing is off the table.
Go to theguardian.com/Football Weekly Live to get your tickets. Let's do the race for the Champions League spots then, which feels pretty much sewn up after the weekend. Manchester United won at Chelsea. They're on 58 points. Villa on 58 after beating Sunderland. Liverpool on 55 after winning at Everton late on. And then there's a gap to 48 points. Chelsea another defeat. Brentford on 48 as well. Let's begin, Barry, at Villa Park. Villa 4, Sunderland 3. Absolutely brilliant finish to this game. And that, within 40 seconds, Sunderland could win this game. Unbelievably, Diarra's through, goes for the dink. And if he squares it, his mate has a tap in. And then it goes down the other end and Tammy Abraham wins it. It was a brilliant game.
Yeah, sensational game that definitely isn't going to get the attention it deserves because there were more important games played over the weekend. But I didn't mind Sunderland losing this, to be honest. But they looked dead and buried. Then they came at 3-1 down. They got it back to 3-3. Then they should have made it 4-3 and ultimately lost 4-3. Brilliantly seesawing game. Some great performances from players on both sides. I thought John McGinn was excellent. Morgan Rogers, good. Ollie Watkins, obviously, hitting form at the right time. Sunderland, they let Villa score within 2 minutes of the start of each half. Didn't do themselves any favour in that regard. Cold start. But a fantastic game. Villa probably just about deserved to win it, and I've no problem with Sunderland losing, really. It was disappointing when you see how close they came to actually snatching victory from the jaws of what looked like certain defeat. But as far as I'm concerned, those lads can put their feet up for the rest of the season. I'm not sure I particularly want them to qualify for Europe. But then last season, I thought they weren't ready for the Premier League. So, don't listen to me, Regis.
Jadon Sancho would be delighted because he had a nightmare 2 minutes where he gave it away twice and Sunderland scored twice, the poor bloke. That one-on-one moment is quite interesting. When you're a player that doesn't have many one-on-ones, and I don't think Diarra does, and there is you can just see a million thoughts going through your head, and it isn't as easy as I think we think it is.
Yeah, it's like when defenders used to take penalties in shootouts and they've never really taken one before. Everyone likes to see that, though, don't they? It's kind of it's one of those moments where sport makes people do like a number 11 batting against, a world-class opening bowler. You like to see it. I mean, in my mind, if I were presented with a one-on-one, I would probably do the Pele dummy where I run this way around the goalie. But I wouldn't miss. He misses.
Diarra is running straight at Martinez, so if he runs around the ball, then Martinez will just pick it up.
Bad, wouldn't it?
Yeah, Barry.
Can I say there was another moment? Can I just bring back to Arsenal? There was a moment. The goal, the winning goal, came from Donnarumma throwing the ball.
Yes.
Really well, and it felt transgressive. It was like, you're not meant to. He's really also, he's the only person on that pitch who looks like not really like a football athlete, and he threw the ball. It was almost like a guilty little moment where you're meant to do midfielder things. You're meant to be part, but it really worked. And it was a brilliant throw, and it was like it did feel transgressive. The hands, and that was kind of nice. That was a reclaiming of normal people.
In Diarra's defence, I would say it's not like he made a total dog's breakfast of the dink. He did actually execute it well. It was just a very, very good save. But he should have squared it. But it's easy to say that with the benefit of 2020 hindsight.
It is. Meanwhile, Liverpool won at Everton. I mean, this is a sickener for Everton, isn't it, John? They could have gone within 2 points of Liverpool. They certainly deserved a point. They were so dominant until Salah scored, and then to lose it like that. Oh,
yeah. And we've seen all the the footage of Steven Gerrard jumping around a working man's club or whatever, yes, in celebration. Evertonian tears. They'll be bottled up this week in a factory on Merseyside somewhere, won't they? Because that was the one that got away. It felt like the old Goodison derbies always seemed to me to be a draw, and it felt like the Hill Dickinson was headed in the same direction. And then Van Dijk just does this, doesn't he? He scores important goals, and Liverpool again were grinding it out. It wasn't a great performance. Isak, who we mentioned before, I think 16 touches on the ball or something like that. It just wasn't happening. Everton, when I was watching the game, Dewsbury Hall, just such an enjoyable player to watch. And they played some really nice stuff, and they had that goal disallowed, the Undai goal. Everton will feel this really did get away from them. And when we've all season, it's the pressure on Arne Slot. If they'd have drawn or lost this game, the pressure would have piled right on. But it buys him some credibility, doesn't it? And winning a derby game can really draw a veil over a lot of sins, can't it? So great win for Liverpool. They will enjoy the week ahead.
I think what was interesting about this was that most of Liverpool's best performances came from players who have been much maligned this season.
Yeah.
Salah, Gakpo, Virgil. But yeah, Everton let this one get away from them. They should have drawn it at least.
Do you think, Barney, if Liverpool get in the Champions League, that will save Slot or not?
Yes, I do, because of the kind of club it is, has been. I mean, there's no actual guarantee of that, but I think winning a league title is quite a big deal, really, isn't it? I know there's an urge to kind of discredit that and suggest that he was just it was the end of the Klopp era, but I think if they get in the Champions League, in the end, they are run by a financial entity, and that is all that really matters, is that you keep that income coming in. So he'll have done that job, and he probably deserves another go. The problem he's got is obviously that Xabi Alonso is sort of lurking, unattached, and would be spiritually appealing to Liverpool's fans, although perhaps not necessarily in terms of the kind of football he likes to play, which is quite patient and possession-based, and maybe not, maybe closer to Slot's football than some people might realise. But he's also a more charismatic person, and kind of has that feeling of big time about him, which people like, and he's connected to the club. But I think if they get in the Champions League, I think it will probably save him for now.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of DNA, to Stamford Bridge, Chelsea 0, Manchester United 1. A terrible weekend for Chelsea, but you were there, John, to see Manchester United's one shot on target. But it's a big result for Carrick, this, isn't it?
Yeah, huge result, particularly after that Leeds performance, which brought about much speculation that Big Sir Jim was not minded to turn to Carrick, but like Barney says with Liverpool, if United get into the Champions League and it is about the money, and let's face it, it's about the money, then Carrick, you'd have to say, has such a strong candidacy for a more permanent contract. The thing, United scored on the counter. They did so because Alejandro Garnacho did what he often did for Manchester United, which was forget that there are other parts of the game than showing off your bits of skill. Gerald Laharto was similarly lax. Bruno Fernandes is such a brilliant player, and you can't give him an inch like that. And but I suppose my take from this game and the piece I wrote from the game is just the sheer emptiness of the Chelsea experience these days. You know, the hollowing out of that club. Barney will know this in particular, that Chelsea always had that sort of upwardly mobile, sort of yuppie image, sort of the early 2000s through to the Abramovich era. But now it's, who are these people hanging around before the game? You know, this sort of tunnel club, Barney, you know, when you sat there and you're just watching these people sort of taking videos of themselves on, you know, for Insta and just hanging around, and they're paying through the nose for this nonsense. And there would always be this sort of rumble of Chelsea, proper Chelsea, yeah, that you get at the game, that I would feel at a game, particularly against Manchester United, a club that Chelsea hold an enmity towards Manchester United. They see them as a rival, but I just didn't feel it. And you've got Rafinha is a guy that's taken a lot of flack, and rightly so, for the performance of his team, but you have to feed off something, and there's nothing to feed off within the club. It's just a series of sums being done of you know, the fact that Garnacho's in the team. They bought Garnacho for 40 million because they thought, oh, that's a deal that we could make a lot of money on the way through, because we can resell, we can short the market. Chelsea's not a team, it's not a club, and if you're a Chelsea fan, you would feel, what is this? And if they don't get into the Champions League, then the financial figures that we know from the figures that keep escaping the club are disastrous, are going to get worse. And, you know, Barney talked before about the cleansing that Tottenham need. What type of cleansing do Chelsea need? It's even more. I mean, it's a full out bleaching to become.
Well, Chelsea need a different ownership. I mean, what's really startling about them is not so much that they've adopted this model, but that they've applied it so incompetently. Like,
Yes.
it's not even a good talent clearinghouse. Bowley was talking recently on a podcast about the period where he was sporting director for some reason. I mean, literally a guy who knew nothing, like knows less than anyone here about football, which is really not very much. And he was and he said, basically, I recruited players if other clubs wanted them. That told me there was value in that player, so I would go after them, which is the most insane model for recruiting a sports team imaginable. And they're still suffering from that initial splurge. Well, he's obviously not so involved anymore, but that period was utterly disastrous. And it's just amazing that not so much that they would adopt this strange model that's not really been tried before, that they would do it so badly. It's astonishing, and they really have no place in this sport. And I would really hope they just decide well, this asset's no longer delivering for us, and we need to sell it to I don't know, Azerbaijani arms dealer or something like that. Whoever's up for it, that'll be fine.
I mean, I thought that said, Barry, I thought they were quite unlucky in this game, Chelsea. You know, they created chances. Manchester United didn't create a lot.
They weren't terrible. They've played a lot worse and got, I was going to say better results. Maybe they haven't, but this was one of their better performances under Liam Senior. They hit the woodwork a few times, had chances. Caicedo had a shot that went very narrowly wide. But yeah, if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be quite fed up with what my club has become, because it doesn't really seem to be a football club. But I'm only repeating what the lads have already said.
Yeah, of
more
course.
Eloquently than I can.
Yeah. So yeah, no goals, 4 defeats in a row, no goals in those, 7 defeats in 10 in all competitions. I heard somewhere that I think they're on the worst run of all clubs in the Big Five league.
Listening to Liam Rossini after, and listen, I'm with you, Max, I think, on this. That I really want this guy to succeed, but sometimes you hear him say something and you think, what message is this? And this was, Jacob did the quotes piece, and this was something that he said. He said, there are many elements, actually, that the process of underlying things that we're looking into suggests that if you stay in this process, we will win games of football. What? I mean, sorry, mate.
Yeah.
You know,
that is a bit, that I would have written that in a A-level history essay, in a shit one, is my guess. I remember a mate who hadn't really, I can't remember what the question was. It was like, to what extent, how important was, I don't know, crop rotation in the Anglo-Saxon world? And he went, to answer his question, it's important to define important. And he went, fuck, in the tutorial. And maybe sort of, but he's not wrong. I mean, you do actually have to define important before you can decide what is important or not. To St James's Park, Newcastle 1, Bournemouth 2. So Iraola's farewell tour starts well. Good win for them. But the story is Eddie Howe, Barney. Do you think what would you think will happen to him?
Well, he seems to be, his reserves of energy seem to be rapidly ebbing away, and you do end up just having change at places because sometimes you just need change. I feel like what's happened at Newcastle probably not really. I know you could, if you're a Newcastle fan, you could easily pick apart mistakes made, selections. He's often accused of being slightly overly loyal to certain players, which I always think is a hard accusation to make because he is managing individuals. He's managing a billion things that you can't kind of see in how you make those players want to play for your club and so on. And also he understands which of these players actually wants to do this more profoundly. But it seems to me he's a really good manager and will flourish somewhere. And possibly the issues at Newcastle are not to do with him, and again to do with the club's ownership, which is not the same thing that it was when it came in. Like that, there were some really profound problems in Saudi ownership of sport. There's some really profound problems in Saudi trying to build a space city in the middle of the desert. The world has massively changed in that respect, and so has Vision 2030 or whatever it is. Even the success of the Saudi Pro League was a really bad thing for Newcastle because this is all speculative. It's like, which of these things are we going to get most behind, which is going to fly? Clearly it's the one with Ronaldo in it, and I just think maybe Eddie Howe is not the cause of a certain degree of uncertainty and entropy around that project. You've still got Dan Burn playing every game, who is a very worthy, good, honest footballer. But, but I think Eddie Howe time there might be coming to a close from what I see, read, pick up. But I feel he'll go somewhere else and do very well because he's a really good football manager.
Brentford 0, Fulham 0. Richie says, is Brentford still being 7th after 5 draws in a row and 1 win in 8? A sad indictment of the quality of the Premier League this season, or a demonstration of the strength of the middle classes, or is this incredibly dull and can we just skip straight to a vasectomy? Very little happened in this game. But, Barry, that burnt Leno save was absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I gave up watching this game at half-time because it was so bad and I had things to do. I have since seen the burnt Leno save. Definitely one of the saves of the season, but not the save of the weekend, Max, because I saw some footage on Instagram where an Australian goalkeeper pulled off a remarkable save from an incredibly weakly struck volley. Hit by yourself.
A left foot volley. It's not a scissor kick. It's just a sort of. I've really got my left foot up high, and considering I have hip problems to the point where I can't actually get on my bike from that side, I have to go around to the other side of my bike. I thought I was quite pleased to make some contact, and I was surprised he saved it. But it's funny, during the game, you think I've rattled that, and that is like Gordon Banks. And then when you watch it back, it seems to be in slow motion. But,
seeing yourself play football it's really disturbing, isn't it? Really disturbing.
I think,
but I would
like
steer listeners in the direction of Max's Instagram account to see this travesty of justice. He cruelly denied by some Aussie cat. And there's a great Aussie profanity from someone in the build-up as well, which really adds a chef kiss to it.
Chris says, a couple of emails to finish. Max Baz and team, Thomas Frank was accused of breaking cover at the weekend when he chatted to my granddad at the G-Tech. He was in the fancy seats, which we were near due to a combination of my granddad's 70 years of support and his wheelchair. My dad apologetically approached Thomas Frank and said it would mean a lot to my soon-to-be 90-year-old granddad if he said hi. Frank came over for a photo, but also had a proper chat with Granddad David. Biggest smile we've seen from him all year. My dad isn't usually one for celeb hunting. In my childhood, I was fuming when he'd been in a lift with Anton Deck and did not even take a covert selfie. Anyway, on this occasion, he asked, and Thomas Frank obliged without hesitation, which really made their day. It also made the rest of the family's day that the Daily Mail spun it into a takedown piece about Frank breaking cover with Grandad, the grinning co-conspirator. See link to article featuring grinning Grandad and greying Dad. Love the show, Chris. Well, our love to your Grandad, and well done to Thomas Frank for being a nice person. We'll do EFL tomorrow, so we'll talk about Coventry, we'll talk about Palace West Ham as well. I just wanted to finish, and the National League, which is extraordinary at the top. But Ishan writes, evening guys, I'm not normally one to write into podcasts that I listen to, but the events of the last 2 years have somewhat compelled me to. I've been listening to you guys since around 2009. Used to be desperate for any mentions of my beloved Swansea City. Over the years, my interest in the game has somewhat waned due to all the greedy corporateness of it. However, I carry on listening to you guys to keep my fingers on the footballing pulse and have some sort of go-to small talk at weddings, etc. I like to know what our role is in this. One feature I always find quite amusing is the live vasectomy reporting from other listeners. This is why I'm writing in. Tomorrow morning, I'll be on the chopping block myself. However, it's for something quite the opposite. After trying for kids for a long old time and nothing happening, my wife and I went for tests, which revealed that my testicles are actually Fernando Torres at Chelsea, shooting blanks. After a horrific 2.5 years of IVF-related sadness, we're now at a final where a surgeon will take biopsies of my balls and hope to find gold and make some babies in a lab. More importantly, I can finally be part of the testicular surgery-related content of this pod. The diagnosis, the stigmas attached to it, and the IVF journey have been truly horrific, especially in a world of ever-increasing toxic masculinity. However, I wanted to share my story to express my gratitude to the pod that's given me such great joy and escapism over the last few years. For that, I'd like to thank Three Bean Salad, which is a different podcast, but there you go. Lots of love. Carry on the great work. Ish, can you give a shout out to my chronically single friend, Akib, who is getting married next month to an avid Spurs fan? Their wedding is on the final day of the season. Wow, split screens for that Madison celebration, that Souček header. Well, look, Ish, we wish you the best of luck, of course. And we hope they find gold in your balls, my friend. And that will... Yeah,
can I just say good luck with all that? But as someone who describes themselves as not someone who regularly writes into podcasts, you've really gone straight for just go for the jugular, just go straight, just 100% straight in there, ball stuff.
Yeah, it was never, he didn't start
and
with,
why not?
He didn't start with, why'd you never mention Swansea? But he went straight in at the deep end. And
I respect it, all in.
Good luck to you. We send you our love. Best of luck with all of that. And that'll do for today. Thank you, everybody.